Hi, everyone. This is Sean with the MassSupport Network here with your COVID-19 update for Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. So big development this morning is that the FDA is recommending a pause in Johnson & Johnson vaccinations over a concern over blood clotting, rare blood clots occurring in people who have received vaccination. So far, the reports of about 6 cases out of about 7 million vaccinations, so that is very rare. These have so far been in women 18 to 48 within 2 weeks of their injection. Now, you may recall, of course, that AstraZeneca's vaccine has gone through a lot of back and forth over potential blood clots with their vaccinations. They've had 222 cases out of 34 million in Europe. Now, this is a very specific type of blood clot concern, running a clot that causes embolism in the venous sinuses, which are veins that drain blood from the brain. And there have been some cases of fatalities with these. However, as I said, it's a very rare situation. And with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, there's not yet any evidence that there is actually a link there. It's worth noting that this is such a rare outcome that there is no possibility that a clinical trial could ever have picked this up, because you can't run a clinical trial in millions of people to get a literally 1 out of a million chance to come up. So there'll be a little more there. There is a bit of concern that this may lead to more vaccine hesitancy, even though the chance of getting significant blood clots if you get COVID is, of course, much, much higher. And the fact that the amount of Johnson & Johnson vaccines given in the United States makes up something like 3% of all vaccinations. So there's going to be a lot of talk about this in the next couple of days, probably a lot of takes back and forth and different concerns being raised about both the vaccine and pause. Normally, it's worth noting that blood clots are generally developed in 300 to 600,000 people in the US per year. So there's going to be a lot of confounding factors. A lot of medications are also known to increase risks for blood clots, including things like birth control pills or statins. So there's going to be a lot of things going on talking about this. It's also worth noting, of course, that due to the manufacturing error recently at the major Johnson & Johnson plant in Baltimore, there's not actually a lot of Johnson & Johnson vaccine out there right now. So pausing vaccinations with Johnson & Johnson is probably actually not going to slow down. At this point, it's probably not going to influence the vaccination rollout that much, just because we're already getting about 1/10 of what we were getting previously of that vaccine. But expect there to be a lot of discussion over this next couple of days. It is also worth noting that in the the emergency use authorization, there was a note that it might be worth checking to see if that there may be some possible connection with blood clotting disorders, people who have those already. So this was not something that was completely unknown, that just came completely out of left field. But we didn't have any evidence that there was any actual real world cases of that. And we still may not see. These are still very few cases out of the number of vaccines given. So by and large, these vaccines are, the AstraZeneca vaccine is still largely recommended where it's authorized for people basically over 30 who are not in a extremely low transmission area. The blood clotting appears to be mostly in younger people. So you've seen there, mostly women. And it's generally a much lower risk than the risks from contracting COVID. But expect a lot more of that in the coming weeks. Also, another vaccine news, Pfizer has requested FDA authorization to give its vaccine to 12 to 15-year-olds, so which if approved, it's 3 more years worth of people who can get the vaccine, and that will greatly speed up who we can give it to and make high schools at least a lot safer, because we can probably get through to all of those teenagers before the fall and make things easier for a reset there. It's also worth noting, as I mentioned Pfizer there, there is no link with the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines to blood clotting whatsoever. The Pfizer and Moderna use a different system than the AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, which use an adenovirus modified to create spike protein. So that's potentially why there's a link there. Maybe something about the vector they use, that adenovirus delivery system, as opposed to the mRNA system that the Pfizer and Moderna use, which appears to have no connection. So that's all we're doing today is talking about vaccinations. Let's look at that some more. So far, 237 million vaccines have gone out to the states. Here in Massachusetts, we've gotten 4.6 million. And 189 million vaccinations have been given so far. That's even 4 million here in Massachusetts. Talk about the actual number of people vaccinated. 120 million Americans have received vaccines, at least one dose. That's 46.2% of all adults in America. Here in Massachusetts, we've crossed 50% of the state has received at least one dose. That's very exciting. In terms of fully vaccinated, that is 2 doses or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson, if you had it when it was still available. That's 23% of the adult population of the United States, or 32%, probably be over 1 in 3 Massachusetts residents by the end of the day. So that is some progress there. When we look at progress, though, it's important to remember that worldwide vaccination progress is very uneven. This is a graph from our World in Data that shows the percent of population in any given country that has received the vaccine. Note that the countries in gray, they don't have data on. Obviously, China has given a lot of vaccines, but we just don't know how many exactly. However, it's worth noting also that this scale here goes up exponentially. So people in the countries in this lowest bracket have vaccinated less than 0.1% of their population. There are some countries out there that have not given a single vaccine yet. It's worth noting that while we are talking about our own vaccination rates here, there are a lot of countries out there where it's a long way off. And when I'm talking about American vaccinations, I like to kind of rate the different states and who's in the lead. But when we talk about worldwide, it's, we can't really beat the virus until we get vaccines deployed everywhere. And speaking still about the United States, looking at the left, this is the rate of someone can get, this is the rate at which people are getting their first vaccination. As of last week, this was 32% of the full population, counting children, had been vaccinated. Right now it's 36%, and this shows the projection of when we will be fully vaccinated, at least when the full population will have the opportunity to get at least 1 vaccine. And we've moved the dates up a little bit. The 90% mark is now a week earlier. The 78%, which is all adults, is about 5 days earlier than it was a week ago. As the rates continue to increase, we're giving over 3 million vaccines a day on average, even topped a 4 million vaccine day. So things are still accelerating now, and it remains to be seen when we are going to run up to the point where we have more supply than demand, which is something we should still be expecting in the near future, as both Pfizer and Moderna are putting out more and more vaccines every day. And also we'll get to the point where vaccine hesitancy starts to become an issue. One final thought as we go into our week, just a comic here for people getting their final vaccinations, being fully vaccinated, and all the things that you want to go out and do afterwards. All right, our sources, New York Times, mass.gov, CDC, and Our World in Data, which I can add here. And for more for the MassSupport Network, you can find us on our website or on social media. And remember, wear your mask, wash your hands, and we'll be there if you need us. Stay safe.